Inside breathtaking space army China is building that can blast targets around the curve of our planet. It says that China is building a massive army in space that's like something straight out of Star Wars. Now, again, I know that just the title of this is going to get people debating in our audience. But again, this is something that we've followed, of course, for years now. And we've watched as they launched three gigantic rockets that they didn't even track the falling off parts of it. And that's why everybody in the entire world was watching these items coming down thinking, oh, they might land in New York. All three of those were massive rockets, very similar to a Starship-sized rocket that were carrying up parts for their space station, which they now say is most likely some sort of weapon on top of being a space station. That is already up there. They are talking about China making a 5-mile-long structure in space, and now they are saying that they are building a space army. It says this week, U.S. space chiefs warned China had tripled the number of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance satellites in orbit. Experts are now concerned that this space fleet could be used to advance military goals on the ground. Well, no duh. With the ability to blast targets from thousands of miles away, even around the curvature, which I know people are triggered, these satellites could identify targets for submarines to hit with missiles. Again, it says China has now 350 satellites focused around the Indo-Pacific. U.S. officials reckon that they want the region for a no-go zone for Western forces, possibly paving the way for an invasion on Taiwan. Not only do these satellites constantly feed information back to the Chinese military chiefs and allow for precise targeting of distant targets, they would also make Western interference in the region much trickier to pull off. It says that Colonel Raj Agrawal, commander of America's Space Delta II Force, said while speaking at the U.S. Embassy in London, the Chinese have demonstrated clear intent with what they are fielding in space, and that intent is for the projection of power in the Indo-Pacific. The Chinese are posturing forces in such a way to make the Indo-Pacific prohibitive in terms of the U.S. and allied freedom of maneuver. So something that they know, or something that they say they know, is going to prevent other countries from going in these areas. They have some sort of super weapon. Now, this is on top of a few months of not only Russia launching possibly a nuclear warhead into space. We have North Korea launching into space and had their first spy satellite, or at least they said that that's what it is. And they even have 2 satellites that float above Earth, above the U.S. twice every day or whatever it is. And those could be turned into super EMPs. So you've got a lot of things going on above our heads. Now, even if you believe something else about what's going on up there, for sure, we are most definitely not getting the entire truth. As far as what is happening, it would be no surprise to me that some sort of event happens from the skies. Now, mind you, people have been seeing weird stuff in the sky for as long as we've all been alive, and our grandparents and our great-great-grandparents. There's weird stuff up there. There always has been, even before modern technology. Now, we have tons of weird stuff up there. Anytime you look up, you can see multiple satellites. You see what looks like to be a star going across the sky, and even flashes of light. Heck, people are saying that they're seeing things circle the moon right now. But again, how much of it is true? How much of it is op? How much of it is ganda? How much of it is just puffing their chest? As far as all of our adversaries that are doing stuff in space, it really seems like on top of the events that are going on Earth, something is up. So we're going to talk about this tonight and much, much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. Stick around. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, there's a really important part here, too. Just want to go over this. It says, frankly, the People's Republic of China is moving at breathtaking speed in space, and they are rapidly developing a range of counter-space weapons to hold a risk our space capabilities. It says General Stephen Whiting, commander of U.S. Space Command, said that China has built, quote, a kill web over the Pacific Ocean with the aim of tracking and targeting enemy forces. Now, if you were in the Navy or your former or current Navy, then you probably know that war used to be a whole lot different. As far as your ships, the ships would go quiet. Literally, people in the ships or in the submarines would literally go silent. Everybody would stop moving. You couldn't drop a wrench, otherwise the enemy could detect you. Or you could hide behind certain things. You could try to jam radar, things like that. But that doesn't make any sense if you've got a satellite directly above and multiple that can literally look at the entire ocean and say, they're right there. There would be no hiding, and you would have warning way before they came. China didn't have this capability before. Most countries didn't. The U.S. has a lot of capabilities that nobody else had. Now we're getting onto an equal playing field, or closer to an equal playing field, having a kill web. So this is, there's no doubt that they're building up super, super fast. So really, really concerning. Now, a lot of people will say, it's a bunch of BS. I guess we better hope that that's true, right? I guess the thing is like a lot of people just think, it's not going to happen. I would rather be on the air of caution and say this is a possibility than to just completely poo-poo everything and say, this isn't going to happen. They don't have these weapons. They're totally full of it. That makes you feel better, but if it's not true, then we're all going to be screwed. I'd rather have a basic plan rather than just kind of hope that things are going to go well because the world is not looking too great. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, as far as the kill web, I guess what's different from what they've been doing, and what would this change compared to 5 years ago?
Well, I think with electronic warfare and all of the new technology that's coming out, especially that they have been advancing because they didn't start with old tech. They basically got to start with new tech. We have evolved from old tech, and then we layer in new tech into it. So I think, a lot of the advanced technology that they're building and bringing about is something that's going to really make them a lot stronger. And when you marry that with and couple that with the capabilities of seeing everything from space, as well as even moving into space from a kinetic warfare point of view, which we know they've talked about, it's a huge advantage for them. And that's something that obviously we're very concerned about.
Yeah, as far as what everybody is concerned about, it's a capability that they've never really had. By the way, I do want to shout out Jacob Israel. He's said quite a few nice things, but also he's going through the same thing that most of the other creators are going through as well. If you guys can help him, make sure to go over and subscribe to Jacob. Again, if you've already checked him out, thank you. Again, we try to help all of our friends here, and he is also on that Marfoogle friends list over at marfooglenews.com/friends. All right, and then let's see here. We have China harbors ship tied to North Korea. Russia arms transfers and satellite images are showing something very alarming. It says China is providing moorage for a U.S.-sanctioned Russian cargo ship implicated in the North Korean arms transfers to Russia. So China is directly helping with them getting their weapons to Russia. No surprise there. According to satellite images obtained by Reuters, as U.S. concerns grow over Beijing's support for Moscow's war in Ukraine, Britain's Royal United Services Institute, or RUSI, think tank said that the Russian vessel Angara, which since August of 2023 has moved to Russian ports thousands of containers believed to contain North Korean munitions. It has been anchored at Chinese shipyard in eastern Zhejiang province since February. The ship's presence at the Chinese port underscores the challenges facing the United States and its allies as they try to choke off military and economic support for Russia, which, of course, they shut down. A lot of American businesses shut down in Russia. All of these things happened. Come to find out that most of their economy actually stayed intact, where the McDonald's and the Starbucks and all the places that ended up closing down there, other places actually took their spot. And in some ways, they said it actually boosted some of their parts of economy. It actually had their country and their businesses kind of fill in all the blanks. As far as other things that they've sanctioned on Russia, we found out that those sanctions really didn't work as well as we thought. Not to mention, it drove a wedge in between several countries, and now it has drove China and Russia together. And now with North Korea working so closely with Russia, it's not really a great scenario. Most people are pissed off at our current prez, but again, I think it's more just the entire NATO, entire world. All of these allied countries have made some pretty off decisions about what's going on. Obviously, we have a kind of a circus car driving without a driver. But a spokesperson for the U.S. State Department said it was aware of credible open source reports that the Angara, currently moored in a Chinese port, and had raised the issue with Chinese authorities. It says, we call on all member states to fulfill their obligations under UNSCR 2397, referring to United Nations resolutions restricting trade with North Korea and requiring UN states to deregister any vessels involved in illicit activities. So they're not even supposed to be dealing with this and, of course, helping North Korea do any kind of trade, let alone helping Russia. When Secretary Blinken meets with his PRC counterparts this week, he will address a range of concerns, including Russia's war against UKR and Russia, and, of course, the North Korea ties. It says satellite images RUSI obtained in recent months from companies including San Francisco-based Earth imaging firm Planet Labs showed the Angara docked at Zhoushan Xinhua shipyard in Zhejiang, which on its website says it's China's largest private ship repair company. The ship was identified by its unique automatic identification system, or AIS, and had been briefly turned on, likely for safety reasons, while navigating a busy stretch of the Korea Strait en route to China. So it's only because that got turned on did they find out about it. And, of course, they said before arriving in China on February 9th, seemingly for repairs or maintenance, the Angara had been docked in January at North Korean and Russian ports with its transponder turned off. It again stopped transmitting shortly after arriving to China. So it's been turning off they've been turning off transponders. And I wonder, as far as all of the kind of Navy community or the folks that watch all of the ocean activity by the transponders, kind of like the flight radar, but watching all of the sea, they've noticed a lot of strange stuff that we can see. I can only imagine all of the action and all of the different movements, military movements that are happening for the ships that are turning off their transponders. I've seen many comments, people say, oh no, every ship has to have it on. Obviously they don't. I mean, a lot of ships probably go the illegal route plenty of times. And then military, they're allowed to do this. They can turn off their transponders if they're trying to go quiet. So I just wonder how much of that is going on right now. And they also said that it did at least 11 voyages to Russia. So is it any surprise that China is helping out Russia and North Korea? No. I said yesterday, I think China's like the daddy. China's in charge. They're the ones actually pulling the strings. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Speaking of which, let's go over to the chat. Thank you guys for being here. Let's do a quick roll call. We've got Resistance Homesteading. We've got Rashid, Donna Honey, St. G. Thank you. We've got, of course, Scrappy Doo, Mishmouth. Thank you. Rick, thank you. And Sarah, thank you so much for being here. Schaefer Girl, big shout out to Dave and Laura Reed. Robert J. House, we've got Surgery 68 from Utah. Country Boy, what is happening? Indiana in the house, Jammer, wonderful mod. Make sure to, of course, thank your mods. And then Deb Ryan, we've got Charles May, we've got Jack Burton. Let's see here, Mitch Mouth from Florida, Sign Digger, Alabama in the house. We've got Christchurch, New Zealand, Living Off Grid, what is happening? Texas in the house, Northern Michigan, Oregon, we've got California. We have Rhode Island. Nice to see you guys. And a bunch of Washington State. Nice to see some locals. Donald Massey, Sonic Popo Speed Pig. Howdy y'all from Texas. What a name. And then JC836, Judy Beer, and so many more. Thank you guys for making it tonight. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for drinking your coffee, listening to us at work, or if you're at a warehouse, make sure to scream in the warehouse and hear the echo. I don't know. Thank you guys. And going back over to the map, here's one of the satellite images that they showed. So this is the Angara. So they're doing something fishy. No pun intended. So something is happening there. And then Dex, do you want to go over North Korea warning off forceful response if the U.S. tightens sanctions again?
Well, here we go. More words from North Korea. In this particular case, on Thursday, they've condemned new efforts to monitor these sanctions enforcements that are going against them. And they said, quote, if the U.S. introduces a new version of sanctions against the DPRK, the latter will take a new opportunity necessary for its upward readjustment of force, meaning they're going to make a greater level of force against us, which is the U.S. is most afraid of. This comes from Kun Un-chol, the vice minister. Obviously some bad translation there, but we kind of get the gist of what he's saying.
I think they're just weird.
Yeah, we're going to make more force, but yes, they're basically saying don't sanction us anymore than you already have, and if you do, it's just going to be worse. So that's not worse for them, but worse for us because they're going to continue to scale up what they've been doing. So, he's had remarks starting at the beginning of the week, or not remarks, but actions from the beginning of the week. Him being Kim, putting out the nuclear launches, as he called them. They were just cruise missiles that launched over the ocean towards Japan, fell into the water, but he said it was a test of their nuclear deterrent system. So that has happened. We also had a sister just the next day talk, and now we have this person who, again, is the vice minister of U.S. Affairs, making these stern statements. So I think Kim had also said whenever the U.S. cooked up new sanctions resolutions in the UN arena, it triggered a more powerful and more developed nuclear test of the DPRK. In other words, the more you do, the more we go more nuclear. So we'll see. Again, they're always full of words, but we also do see a lot of action from them, but it's always in the form of show, not necessarily direct hits or attacks against anybody.
What I want to know, and if anybody knows this, please DM me on Twitter or email me. Is there a way, I know that they can't watch anything from outside of North Korea. I'm sure Kim can, or his sister, or whatever puppet's in charge. But can you access somewhere online without doing something wrong? Can you access their KCNA, the feed, and can you access the videos of him actually making these statements? And it looks like KCNA might have just had a written statement that they put out. I want to know, how many videos do they have? Do they show him every day on TV? Does he talk? We've seen very few videos, and the videos that we have seen, there's no absolute proof that it's not like an AI video or that it's not a dated video. Is the guy still alive? It brings you back to the question why his sister got involved in the first place. Dennis Rodman straight up told us, somebody who goes there and was a family friend, says, I can't speak on it because I'm a family friend, but if that sister starts talking, then you know something is wrong. The sister then started talking, and she talked for the country. And that country does not, before her, they never had a respect for women at all. They didn't respect women whatsoever. So it was very weird. For them to do that, they have to make her a holy figure. They have to make her a part of the religion. They literally did an edit and a footnote in their religion and added her in. So same with the daughter, I believe that's going to be something too. Maybe they added her in so they would get used to being under a woman, because the daughter is his only, the person he has to pass it down to. I don't know. Or he's not alive. And I say that because they reported he died. Then hours later, they said he was in a coma. Then they said he would be in a vegetable. And then all of a sudden the sister started talking, and now she still is, one of the people that makes these crazy, crazy statements. So I don't know what the heck is going on with North Korea, but I've always said I think that North Korea could be the one that pops off the big event first, because I don't think they care about their people. I don't think they care about the country. They care about power. But if Kim or his family, if they get taken out secretly by Russia or China or something else, they could sacrifice that country, have an AI video of Kim say, I'm doing it, and then there's no blowback on anyone besides North Korea. Think about if they took out Kim. Think about if they took out his family. There's only a few of them that are in charge that are still trusted. Take out those, then all the rest would be easy. You could literally sacrifice that whole country. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, and let's see here. Before we move on, let's go over to EMP Shield. If you guys haven't checked these out, make sure to go check them out. This is a device that can protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, and boats against an EMP strike or a Carrington-level event from the sun. All you have to do is wire it into your car in less than 10 minutes, and you will protect it from EMP or CME. They also make devices for generators, and they even make one for your home. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and get $50 off with the code MARF. You also help our independent news, and of course, you get yourself protected at the same time. I think it's a win-win for everybody, and it helps reinforce the growth of this channel, since, again, we are going up a uphill battle against MSM. So thank you guys for doing so. All right, and then Dex, let's go over. The Belarus leader warns of nuclear apocalypse if Russia is pushed too far.
So Lukashenko is back in the news now, and he has warned of a nuclear apocalypse if Russia continues to be pressured by the West. So, quote, one careless word, one movement could cause armed conflict up to the use of nuclear weapons, Lukashenko said. The country's highest constitutional body is to pass a new security doctrine that escalates the expansion of NATO into formerly communist Eastern Europe as a danger to peace. And Moscow takes a similar view. So Lukashenko's warned that in the event of an increase in domestic tension in Russia, Moscow could use its entire arsenal. Quote, that would be total apocalypse, end quote. So big words coming out of Lukashenko, but we've also heard these words continue to push this nuclear narrative. I think really what they're talking is tactical. I think if we see the weapons that are coming in from the West start to have an effect, a significant effect against Russia, and there's a pushback, we'll probably see them resort to something greater. As it's been as of recently, especially with the lack of funding, Russia seems to have had no problem advancing. I saw an article, I don't know, not too long ago that said the line was left empty for a bit, and they gained 5 miles just because nobody was there, and they just moved right on up. So that kind of activity that's going to keep happening for Russia will probably maintain the status quo. But if all of a sudden all of those lines get pushed back, if all of a sudden all of this weaponry that we're sending in from the West significantly happens and pushes Russia back, or starts to have a detrimental effect inside of Russia, then you're probably going to see them strike with something greater. Whether that be all the way up to tactical nukes, I don't know. But we get the rhetoric from Lukashenko.
Yeah, and I don't think Russia would nuke Ukraine too, unless it was a tactical and it was a small area. My view is that they're not going to go to a full mutually assured destruction anywhere, because if you're trying to take over a place, you're not trying to take your own life, and you're also not trying to destroy the place. You're trying to take it in one piece. But a tactical nuke, that could start off something big. And really, everybody is so desensitized to everything. If they really wanted to make an impact globally, we would have to see something we've never seen before, like an EMP on a country like the U.S., or a tactical nuke and wipe out a few city blocks or something, and some video that just blows our minds. It's so disturbing. That's the kind of thing I think will happen to start World War III into the hot phase. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then NATO nuclear weapons sent to Poland will be a priority target. By the way, we all hope that this goes just like the Cuban Missile Crisis, where in 30 years from now we can go, wow, gosh, we were so close to it, but it never went there. So glad it didn't. But we're pacing for another World War III. And the World War III, all of the countries that were involved in World War II, all of the same things are going on. It really feels like history is repeating itself, just as in World War II, it was all tied into events that happened in World War I. Now events that happened in World War II, now those are all coming back to World War III. But hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully in 30 years from now, we'll say, wow, we were really close to war, but we didn't end up going to war. It all got fixed. And the world was peaceful because humanity has evolved, people. Even though now people can't do simple math, read a clock on the wall, or write cursive, we have definitely evolved. Or wait, maybe just technology evolved and we devolved. I think that's it. But let me know your opinion down below. NATO nuclear weapons sent to Poland, of course, will be a huge target, and they would become the primary target for Russia if they were deployed to Poland, Kremlin officials have warned. Moves in this direction will not provide greater security for Poland or other nations that host such weapons, said Sergei Rabkov, the Russian deputy foreign minister. It came as Alexander Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, said Russia had deployed several dozen tactical nuclear weapons in his country. Belarus said last June it had begun taking delivery of the weapons, the first time that Russia has deployed nuclear missiles in a foreign country since the Soviet era. Mind you, the U.S. has nukes all over. It says Emmanuel Macron warned that Europe can die, as he declared the U.S. was more concerned about themselves, quote, and China than the continent. In a flagship speech, the French president said that the days of outsourcing its security to Washington were over, since Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine had brought war to Europe's backyard. So this is really, really, really important. The French president, what's being said here is a pretty huge statement. France has been going through their own kind of muck. People are not exactly approving of Macron either. Macron has a lot of protests going on over there about his changes. His changes, mind you. It's funny he's talking about China because just a couple days after Xi personally met Macron, he said, we're going to be stepping back from the United States. Now he makes an actual comment about how we're worried about China and less worried about the continent. And he's essentially saying that we're done outsourcing security to Washington, to the U.S. We're done having you fight our battles. This has come to our backyard. Does this not sound like they are about to go to war, whether the U.S. is involved in the beginning or not? This is history repeating itself. Europe is going to get into this war. Something is going to happen, just like the previous two wars, whether it be in World War I when we were fighting Pancho Villa and they, did the whatever, the letter leaked of them being behind the stuff, or in World War II where you had a similar thing where we all of a sudden got in with Pearl Harbor. Something will draw us in. So watching Europe and watching France, a NATO member, if they're getting prepared for war, Germany's getting prepared for war, you've got Poland getting ready for war. You've got Romania getting ready for war. You've got them all getting ready for war. And now they're saying, we're not going to worry about that. It's in our backyard. Mr. Macron called on the EU to deepen European defense cooperation with a paradigm shift. This is the same president that said, well, don't be surprised if we send our own troops. We got to be tough right now into Ukraine. once NATO troops are in Ukraine directly fighting Russia, we're in World War III. I mean, we're in hot World War III. And they say that there's already troops there. They already have consultants. They already have actual specialists. They already have SEAL teams. They already have all of this, and possibly even regular troops. And people are trying to deny that this thing is about to pop off. Dex, the other part, do you want to talk? That says he talks about reacting too slowly. Do you want to go over that part down below?
Sure. He says we're reacting too slowly. Whichever way you look at it, the United States has two priorities themselves. That's fair enough. And the Chinese matter. Europe is far behind. It's not a priority for their geopolitical view, he said at the Sorbonne University. He goes, we used to buy from Russia, from China, and delegate our security to the States, but this is over. The facts have changed. So, I go back to this whole notion that the world is getting divided. It is the West versus the rest. And there's no longer anybody that's standing alone or anybody that's sort of, there's not even a trifecta here happening. It is everybody on one side and everybody on the other. And that's why you see sanctions not working, because everybody that's going to go against the West will just get together and work right around those sanctions.
And look at
and that's yeah. Go ahead.
Look at Niger. Look at Chad. Look at these places that are saying U.S. get out. Today's press conference. I was watching the Pentagon press conference, and he was asked what's going on with this. They gave a roundabout answer. By the way, a reporter directly asked, well, so if the 12,000 troops that are in Niger, if they're leaving and if they're being withdrawn, can we expect them to come home? He gave this 5-minute weird answer that didn't answer the question, a total PR answer. Well, we just want to make sure that we are making sure to do things that are very prosperous for our military, and we always want to do this and this and that to prosper the United States. He never even got close to saying yes or no, or they're going over here. He never said any of it. Somehow he answered it. I got it done at the sentences he was talking, and I'm like, wait, he didn't even, this is like a sentence you could say to anything. Somebody could say, did you eat chocolate ice cream? We always try to prosper, and chocolate ice cream is very good, and we try to make sure it's cold. And it was like he didn't answer the question. Where are those 12,000 troops going? They're not coming home, so they're getting redeployed. But you can also see Niger, they're pulling troops out. Niger is going to be teaming up with Russia and China and Iran. They even said it. They said, we're worried about your connections with China and Russia, or Russia and Iran. They are picking their side, just like Dex said. They are straight up splitting, and even some countries are like, get out, we're on their side now. This is World War III, and people are just blind to it. Dex.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, ultimately it's a matter of how. And look, even the payment we just made, like the big budget, we just took all this money from the U.S. citizens and just funneled it out across the world to support this. And that's exactly how it's all going to be funded. It's going to continue to amp up. They've got it going in Europe. They've got it started and kicked off in the Middle East. They're going to expand those two, and then we just have to get the Pacific going, and then potentially South America, and then of course everything else that's happening in Africa. That'll be the afterthought.
And Venezuela and Guyana and everything else. North Korea, South Korea, China and Taiwan, China and the Philippines, China and Japan. It's all going south. And then German army prepares plan to ready U.S. troops to fight on NATO's Eastern Front. I mean, could it be more clear? And I'm very glad, a lot of people are really hoping, and it's okay to be wishful, and it's okay to be a pessimist or an optimist about this and say it's all just prep and it's all just planning. It's all an op, or it's all a distraction. I really hope you guys are right. But if even 1% of what they are saying is true right now, we're still going to a huge war. Every area of this is very clear. They're being extremely specific of what is going to happen with Europe. Their planning, their leaks, everything. German army chiefs are drawing up plans on how they would feed thousands of U.S. soldiers and refuel their tanks as they move towards NATO's Eastern Front. These are the kind of signs you see right before it actually happens. Let me repeat that. The German army chiefs are drawing up plans on how they would feed thousands of U.S. soldiers and refuel their tanks. They're actually planning, how are we going to have fuel for these guys ready? How are we going to have food ready? That's not something you draw up 10 years in advance. That's something that you need to figure out and allocate as far as food goes. That's something you have to have ready. It's just like, I bet you very soon we're going to see that they're going to do more blood drives. They're going to try to allocate blood. Blood is something that you'll need. Blood donations and things like that. That's something you'll have to move around right before a war starts. You're going to have to set up mobile hospitals and things like that. In an interview with German newspaper FAZ Bundeswehr, Lieutenant General Andre Bodeman said that the Army was putting together a new long-term security plan with the emphasis on civil defense. Most of the planning details are a state secret, but the senior officer did disclose the part of the planning process involves logistics for feeding huge numbers of American soldiers without the main input from civilians. So, what does that sound like to you? Dex, what does this sound like to you?
It's clear. Look, the head of the Bundeswehr said, if, for example, this is his quote, a U.S. division moved towards the east, thousands of tanks, thousands of soldiers, then they would need to be fed and the tanks refueled or possibly repaired. They asked him for an example of what they were training to do right now. He said it was secret, but that was his example he gave. The Bundeswehr's logistics would probably be tied up with our own soldiers on the front. That means we would need a maximum input from the civilian service. In other words, they're trying to design a system where not only their military would be on the front, but how would they wrangle up the civilians to support these thousands of troops that are going to be going to the front, whether it be refueling or bringing fuel as well as food, as his examples he gave.
And just a reminder, that means that the civilians would have to be, I don't know, let in on the secret that we're about to go to war. Oh yeah, that's right. Germany leaked their huge plan that they're going to war, and Germany is telling citizens to prepare and to have food stocked and to have water stocked, and it's actually going out as far as public reminders. They're doing classes in grocery stores to teach people. They're reminding them at checkout in some places, hey, we've got classes on how to prep and what kind of foods you should stock up on. And then they are saying they need the civilian population to help out with the American soldiers because we're going to be tied up on our own people with what we have and our budgets for that. Now, I'm sure the U.S. has to worry about this too. We would have to fund a lot of this. We would have to come up with stuff. But as far as food goes bad. Unless it's an MRE, they've got to also make sure that all of this is ready and able to provide for all of these civilians. Fuel, they could move it there. But again, that tells me this is on a huge scale, like a giant scale. If it's more than what the U.S. can bring with them or supply themselves, that means Germany is going to have to step up too because there's going to be so much going on. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then thank you over on DLive. I appreciate everybody over there that's keeping DLive alive. Sweating Ministries, thank you. This week, thank you, Carol, Liz W. Thank you for the super chat. Genius by Birth, thank you for supporting this week. Thank you. I used to be in the library. Carla Raton, Nita Lane, Stephen Click, Teresa Young. So super awesome to see you this week. Larry Gatlin, Be Real Beast. I hope you're doing okay. Uncommon News, 777. Of course, Neil Nelson, Dominica Lavara, and Karen Ray. Thank you guys. I appreciate your support, and thank you guys for sharing our stuff out. All right, and then we have Sweden to move ahead with sending troops to Latvia as part of NATO forces. So yet another, it's just pretty clear. It says out of Stockholm, Sweden will move ahead with plans to send troops to Latvia as part of NATO's deployment in the Baltic countries, which share land borders with Russia and its ally Belarus. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said on Thursday, this morning, the government took the formal decision to assign the armed forces the task of preparing the Swedish contribution to the reduced battalion. Kristersson told a news conference in Latvian counterpart, Avika Salina. It says the goal is to have this force operational from the beginning of next year. So that's in the next 8 months. They want to have this ready. It says the contribution will include armored vehicles and Leopard tanks. The Nordic country joined NATO last month, becoming the military alliance's 32nd member, abandoning decades of non-alignment in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Sweden had already aimed to contribute a reduced mechanized battalion to NATO's deployment in Latvia as early as next year. Troops intended to deter and defend against any attack, but the final decision awaited NATO membership. So they're saying that they're even moving it up faster than that. They want it in the next 8 months. So everybody thinks in the time periods of like now or tomorrow or today we're going to get an article saying it's World War III. This is something that has been in the works for decades. This is a world war. Things take years and years and years. Like I said last week, it's like think about how much planning goes into, throwing together a wedding. Think about taking over the world. It's a big deal. It's a lot of logistics, and they're doing all of the logistics right now for war. And then Dex, Poland turns on Ukraine as it threatens to send thousands of refugees back to fight in Russia.
Wow. So the UKR draft dodgers that went to Poland could soon be rounded up and sent back home, according to the Polish authorities. The move comes as Kiev is desperately seeking to boost the number of its frontline troops ahead of an expected major summer offensive. Around 152,000 UKR men of military age are believed to have fled to Poland. That's a lot. So if they round up 152,000 people and send them back to UKR, that would be significant. That would be a massive movement of people. And quite frankly, as we've been watching, the troops and the population in UKR and the ones that can support and help the military has been diminishing. I mean, the average age has skyrocketed because they had to even lower, I think, the conscription age again to try to bring more people in. So they have been struggling, and they will continue to struggle unless something changes. And I think everybody understands that what they don't want, and when I say they, the West, what they don't want is to put their own people in. But they're happy to sacrifice the folks that live in UKR. So, perfect example, take them all out of Poland that left and send them right back in. Tell them they've got to go do what it was they didn't want to do, and that's why they left.
Okay, but what does that also say about what happens after that? Who did they grab after that? The average age was like 23, then it went up to 30, 33, and now the average age wasn't it like up to 40 or something, like the 35 or something like that? I think it was even higher. It was like 43 was the average age or something. But that it meant that there was people in their 50s fighting for the Ukraine military, and even up to 55. They showed at least a 155-year-old guy that was conscripted. So they grabbed these draft dodgers. They're nowhere close to winning against Russia. The $60 billion, it might send some money, but what happens when they run out of people? Well, it looks like they already are. Now they're trying to grab 150,000 draft dodgers. What happens after that? Who do you think is going to step in? Why do you think France is saying, well, at some point we might have to jump in? And nobody really believes. Everybody's been really confused, and we don't know if we're getting propaganded. We don't know if the U.S. is lying or if Russia's lying. A lot of people actually believe Russia, and they're saying they don't want to take Baltic states. But what if they're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if they do actually want to take and take back all of the Baltic states that were former Soviet Union? So it's like, what do they do after the 152,000? Is that NATO? And what happens when they literally just run out of people? Are they going to pay mercenaries to go in there and fight? And then how many can you possibly get together? Even if you had 20 Wagner groups, that's a lot of money too. And how are you going to pay for that? I don't think that $60 billion would pay for it. So either more money or more people, but it looks like it. And what happens if they lose? If they lose, what goes down then? Do they just give up half of Ukraine? I don't think Russia even wants the back half of Ukraine anyways. What if they surrender? Is that what's going to happen? Or is NATO going to go in and go to war? Before we move on, if you don't have extra food, we highly recommend you should have at least a few weeks of food in your pantry. Most people have, and average people have, about 3 days of food in their pantry, which is really bad. I know that some of you are on that page, and don't worry, you can do a little bit at a time. If you don't have the ability to do something like this, highly recommend you go over to Alaska Prepper and watch some of his payday preps. He shows you how to be a very efficient prepper with very little money and be able to stock up. But if you do want to get it done and just get it done right now, this is a great and affordable option to get 3 months of freeze-dried food right off the bat. And you'll get it right away. They are sealed in Mylar bags, and this is freeze-dried food that will last 25 years. All you have to do is open it up, add water, or cook in sauce, and boom, you've brought it back to life. That's the cool thing about freeze drying, is it actually keeps a lot of the flavor, it keeps a lot of the nutrients, and of course, it lasts 25 years. So go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. You'll get a giant discount when you go through us. You can also get a 1 month. You can also get a 3-day kit. They have awesome sales on all sorts of stuff at all times. On the 3 month, you can get as much as a $200 off depending on the timing. You have to go make sure to check for current discounts. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. As long as you use that link, you will get discount. Whatever discounts are available will be listed. And then let's see here. And then Dex, go over Iran, Pakistan urge UN Security Council to take action against Israel.
Well, I don't know what the UN would actually do here. They've tried it before, and of course the US will step in when needed if it's meaningful, and if it's not, they'll do something to make themselves look good. But apparently they're calling on the UN, both Iran and Pakistan, to take specific action. They issued a joint statement on Wednesday to take action against Israel, saying it had illegally targeted neighboring countries and foreign diplomatic facilities. I think they're specifically wanting to talk about that attack on the embassy. They went on to say, recognizing that irresponsible acts of the regime there forces was made a major escalation in an already volatile region. Both sides called on the UN Security Council to prevent the regime from its adventurism in the region and its illegal acts attacking its neighbors, their joint statement said. So again, it's just an escalation at this point, but it's also, indicative of the fact that this conflict that's going on is, bringing about on the world stage. It's not just some localized thing. It's going back to this notion that it's one side versus the other. And even you're seeing that play out in the UN, which is also interesting because it almost makes it powerless, because you've got the US and Russia and China all with veto power, at least at the highest level, and they're on separate sides. So anytime something that's going to come up that doesn't give both sides favor, it'll easily be vetoed for almost any reason.
Yeah, as far as the veto, you probably see it almost immediately. And then, thank you, Stephen Click. I'll get to that in 1 second. Be Real Beast, thank you so much. And then U.S. plans to build Gaza Aid Pier branded smoke screen to allow Israeli invasion of Rafah. Now, mind you, they as far as what happened this morning, the Pentagon press conference, by the way, talked about how they did some mortar strikes near this whole area, and they also accidentally leaked. This is the funny part. At the beginning of the press conference, a reporter asked, is there any confirmation of this mortar strike? The Pentagon official said that we have reports of mortar strikes in Rafah, and this happened, whatever else, but didn't confirm it. At the very end, somebody asked him almost the exact same question or threw it in there, and he accidentally confirmed it. And I don't know if that would have actually been a public story. They did put that out earlier, of course, about the strike. But I don't know if it would have been unless if that didn't happen, because he absolutely confirmed it. They could have totally covered something like that up, or at least delayed it or put a spin on it. But he accidentally said that. I'll have to link that on my Twitter. Oh no, I did. Never mind. It is on my Twitter. If you go there, it's probably in the last 3 tweets. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, as far as this pier, the U.S. plans to build a giant floating dock off the coast of Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid were accused of being a smokescreen to allow Israeli army to invade Rafah. The pier is expected to be in position by early May and is intended to bring in a massive increase of aid to the Strip by circumventing land routes controlled by the Israeli army. However, UN officials have warned it won't be positioned off northern Strip where the threat of famine is most severe. But at this point, it is still being overseen by an Israeli army checkpoint. The officials claimed Israel would then likely use the project as a substitute for land crossing, which would be closed off during the state's invasion of the southern region. One of the key arguments for having a dock was to put it further north so that the suppliers could come in more directly to the north, a UN official said. The official, who was not named, added that was actually being proposed looked more like, quote, a smokescreen to enable the Israelis to invade Rafah. This is pretty interesting because that's not exactly what they're saying. It says more than 1 million Palestinians are now sheltering in Rafah. The IDF wants them to move out so it can conduct an offensive against the Hamas units in the city. The U.S. plan will involve a floating dock anchored to the seafloor where big ships will unload and a floating 500-meter pier connected to the shore. Smaller vessels would transport cargo from the dock to the pier, where it would then be loaded onto trucks for distribution. The ambition is for 200 trucks a day carrying 2 million meals to enter the Strip by this sea route. Getting in food, medical supplies, and other aid has been difficult, but not impossible at times due to the ongoing hostilities and struggles to coordinate with the Israeli military, which has blocked routes and slowed deliveries due to inspections. So, by the way, the whole thing with like the airdrops and stuff like that, it just seems like this is really poorly executed. I understand it's extremely complex. The dock thing, it actually seems like they have a pretty solid plan. I guess, couldn't they use this for something else? Dex, don't you think that they could, I guess, what would be the nefarious things that could happen because of this?
Well, I mean, they could roll in more equipment through that. They could bring in addition to bringing in food, they could bring in more gear and military. Although I don't know if they really need to do that via water because they're right there at the land, so they can just go right through their own crossings. I'm not totally sure what else could happen there, but at the moment, the only way the aid can come in is from Egypt or the Kerem Shalom crossing in Israel, but that one's on the southern edge. Those are all in the south, so it's very difficult for them once they get in to move all the way to the north. I know it's not that far, it's 25 miles, but it's 25 miles of destruction. So it's not easy to necessarily get that way, and they're not opening it up at the north, so that's not an option. Obviously, given what happened, they don't want any activity in that area. So that was why they thought the plan of putting in the pier in the north would give a nice clean entry that would have been a safe entry, a guaranteed entry that wasn't anything nefarious, and they could start feeding people in the north. But
so does everybody have to be, I guess it's only a couple miles wide though. So everybody has to go, are they going to offload it onto the beach? So then the boat that goes from the dock goes there, then offloads the food. What is their system from there? And then I wonder if they could do some sort of Trojan horse thing where they offload, something and actually offload troops. The U.S. could possibly work together. I mean, every other time, U.S. would have been working together with Israel to take out these people. I don't know. And also, why... I guess why couldn't the U.S. go in there with spies or something and take out, if there's only so many thousand, send in, the really, really crazy guys, find them and take them out, and without taking out any civilians. Obviously, I guess it's because of the Iran and other countries that are against it. But it's like, I don't know.
Well, ultimately it's gonna, even if we thought we were building a safe pier and we created it and we said, hey, we'll just bring food in from here. It's not like it's going to be an untouched ship that comes from America that's been completely screened, and when it gets there, it's going to offload all this great stuff, and it's going to be, feeding millions of people. They're really just going to get food from the neighbors and, whatever contractors they can get to come in and bring food. And that's ultimately what will happen and it happens all day. It still happens today. Like, there's hundreds of trucks coming in. They've been coming in, bringing humanitarian aid, and there's still things that sneak through, even though they've got their process, they've got their screening process. They do all sorts of tricks to sneak people or things or weapons or other stuff into those routes. So even if we set up a shipping route, there's no guarantee that the cargo that's coming in that looks like, tons of bags of rice don't have munitions hiding inside the bags of rice that nobody bothers to find or has the ability to find, that make it across and get in there and then end up in the hands of the bad guy.
Gunslinger put in a good comment, says Brandon's trying to appease both sides and failing miserably. It's true. Like, this is something where they're
I agree.
Trying to appease everybody that's pro-Palestine, and also trying to appease Israel at the same time. It's a great comment, Gunslinger.
Never mind the ship that went back. Remember that? We covered that a few days ago. One of the ships that's supposed to support this whole thing mysteriously caught on fire and had to go all the way back to the U.S. So it delays all this.
Yeah, for repairs, right? Yeah. Is there any update on that, by the way? I remember saying, like, we should check on this. Like, what the heck happened? Is there no update on, like, what actually happened to that thing? Either way, it's very odd. And then Harvey Weinstein's conviction overturned as Monster could face a retrial. I guess when you're this rich, probably have people on the inside or people, trying to screw up the thing. Now, he had a RAPE case. Obviously, Weinstein is one of the worst. This guy, Hollywood knew about this entire time. By the way, this brings up, if you've seen Quiet on the Set, this is something that's not new. Like, Quiet on the Set just came out and people are discovering this. I knew about this years and years ago. There are communities on YouTube. There are communities out there. There's been posts and forums about Nickelodeon and other channels like this. People knew about, like, Leonardo DiCaprio and all of these young kids that were getting treated horrible. There was rumors when I was a kid about this kind of stuff. I remember as a kid kind of hearing whispers about that, as far as, people talked about that kind of stuff. The weird stuff that was on Nickelodeon. I remember my parents, when I was really little, watching some of the shows and going, this is kind of weird. If you haven't seen it, then you don't know, but there's all sorts of weird shows. If you watch Nickelodeon when you were younger, I know a lot of you are probably aged either before or after, but Nickelodeon had so many weird things on it. They had a lot of live action shows that just did really just disturbing stuff. Kind of like how Disney fit the sex word in the movie secretly. Things like that were all over Nickelodeon. There was a lot of foot-related things. One of the producers, Dan Schneider, had a foot thing, so he always put these young people in it. It's horrible. what I got from watching Quiet on the Set obviously confirmed everything I've always heard about this stuff. But how many staff members were there talking about it? And none of these staff members spoke up. And I get, I would lose my career, this or that. But how in the hell did you let things go down like this when you knew that was going down? Change your career then. Like, if you knew people were doing that horrible stuff to all of these kids, hundreds if not thousands, how did you not do something? Same thing with this. They say he was powerful, that they couldn't say anything. BS. Like, why didn't somebody back then, before they could fake all this stuff, get recordings of these guys? They could have done that. Maybe they would be blackballed, but they would probably have a lawsuit with millions of dollars and they could retire. Like, why didn't somebody bust this guy before all of the Me Too stuff? Why did this guy get to do this to so many women? It's horrendous. As somebody with 3 sisters, I just want to. I wish I could punch this guy myself. But now they say that he's getting a mistrial. It says a New York court has overturned the 2020 decision that found disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein guilty of the R word. Weinstein, which I guess he's 71 now, which is crazy, was at the center of a media firestorm after numerous women accused him of abuse, kicking off the Me Too era. And by the way, Me Too got a lot of people that were innocent. A lot of women just were like, this is my time. They falsely accused people. This guy was not a false accusation. Like, everybody knew about this guy. On Thursday, the New York Court of Appeals decided Weinstein didn't receive a fair trial in a stunning 4-3 decision. The majority said that the judgment had to be thrown out because prosecutors called multiple women as witnesses who fired off accusations at Weinstein that were unrelated to his charges. The testimonies destroyed the Weinstein's past character and were an abuse of judicial discretion. So, Dex, Carol, thank you, by the way. Dex, what the heck?
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer here, but I know there's some things that you can't do things about a person's character that are not related to the case. I don't know what these testimonies were. I never followed this case other than just the headlines and what happened. I didn't follow the actual details of the testimony that went through this case, but I can understand a little bit of what they're describing here. But here's the other thing. Keep in mind, folks, he's still in jail. He was actually convicted of this thing as well from another incident to a woman in Beverly Hills. And that is a 16-year sentence. So this was a 23-year sentence that got dropped. So he's still going to be in jail for the 16-year sentence that he has. The question is, will the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin L. Bragg, you know that name, who was going after the former prez, if he makes the decision to retry Weinstein? That's the question.
Watch this guy who tries to take on everybody else. Watch him say, "Nah, you know what? We're not going to try it." By the way, 16 years in prison or whatever. I bet you they're going to put him in some special treatment thing. He's going to be treated like a celebrity while he's there. He's going to be in a different wing because of his celebrity status. He's going to be in some nice area. He's probably going to get extra perks, and then he's also going to get good time because if you're in these crazy wings that they put together for this high profile of people, then there's very little chance you're going to get in a fight and lose your good time and things like that. So he'll be out just in time to retire and go play golf. I mean, like, he'll be old. He'll be older, 80 years old or something, or maybe not. Maybe he'll get out before he's 80. But he'll still be able to live his retirement and he has all of his money. He can go live wherever he wants. Somebody like this that's done this to so many people, they shouldn't see light again. Just my opinion. It is kind of rough, but I don't really feel bad. And then USC cancels main graduation ceremony after the controversies. Sorry. And in the wake of the controversy surrounding the valedictorian address and pro-Palestinian demonstrators on campus, the University of Southern California on Thursday announced its main graduation ceremony will not be held. With the new safety measures in place this year, the time needed to process the large number of guests coming to campus will increase substantially. The school wrote in an announcement, as a result, we will not be able to host the main stage ceremony, which traditionally brings 65,000 students, families, and friends to our campus all at the same time. I mean, that's as big as a huge football stadium. And it says, and friends to our campus at the same time, and during a short window from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. School officials said that they plan to detail their plans for a commencement by April 30th, and they'll be shared on the graduation website. That's horrible. Imagine working all that way and then graduating, doing like a Zoom graduation or something.
Well, think about this. The people that are graduating now theoretically could have also missed their graduation at the beginning of CV in high school. So that got canceled. They get into college, they bust their butt and get graduated in less than 4 years, or in 4 years or less, and they're up for this, and now it gets canceled again. That's got to be pretty rough.
Yeah, I bet there's probably going to be one of these guys out there that basically lost all of their important days. But I guess they'll frame the screenshots. There you go. They'll throw their hats in their living rooms, I guess. Well, they are all wearing coverings like we're back in that time period. And then possible UFO over New York City baffles passenger flying out of LaGuardia. This one's kind of wild. A plane passenger has claimed she spotted a possible UFO flying high over the Big Apple. Michelle Reyes said she caught sight of a mysterious flying cylinder out of her plane window, well above LaGuardia Airport. It says, the first thing I did was email the FAA to let them know what I saw. That's funny. The first thing she said, I got to email the FAA. Maybe it was a safety hazard, but unfortunately, I haven't heard back from them. They didn't acknowledge my email. I can totally see the FAA not responding to some lady's email about seeing something outside of her window. I'm sure they've probably gotten a few gremlin emails as well. But a baffled Reyes said another passenger also spotted the mysterious object. It's a little nerve-wracking that someone else saw what I saw. It wasn't immediately clear what what flight Reyes was on. UFO expert Ben Hansen told News Nation that there appeared to be no evidence the passenger faked this or hoaxed this. It's there. It's very clear, which is unusual, Hansen said. The latest mysterious spot comes after the Big Apple registered 30 UFO sightings with the National UFO reporting last year, up 7% from the 28 reports recorded in 22. So this is a screenshot of the video. What in the heck is that? It kind of looks like the Millennium Falcon. Yesterday, I think it's Millennial. No, it is Millennium Falcon, right? We had that debate yesterday. What is that? That's not a drone. It doesn't look... Oh my gosh. No way. And nobody said this either. Oh, hold on. I'm going to... Oh, man. No way. Hold on. Hold on, folks. No way. No freaking way. I don't know if you guys see the same thing I do. Let me see if I can get the right angle. Why are they all at the wrong angle? Check it out. Does that not look like it? Look at this. Let's see here. If the saucer was down below, and if you're looking from the top down from behind it and back to the left, do you not see it? What in the world? Or out of this world? And there's even like this circle in the middle of the dome. Comet Moon says nope. Everybody's saying no. Yes. Look, there's a clear... There's what do you call it? What the thrusters? It's because it's not at the right angle. You got it. You got
Yeah,
to
you
have
just
it.
got to turn it upside down.
I'm telling you, I've seen USS Enterprise flying away. You got to get the right angle. Unfortunately, we don't have a 3D model. I don't know. I actually think it's I think it's Captain Picard, but or actually no, sorry, that wouldn't be Captain Picard. That would be Captain Kirk. See, look, if you look at it from this angle, it looks flat, right? Look, and this is Picard, I think. But see, if you're at the right angle, it wouldn't look like that. See that? I don't know. I think somebody time traveled or something. But if this was real, that would be pretty spooky. What else could it be? Let me know in the comments down below. And U.S. Supreme Court divided on whether Trump can be prosecuted. So if you also didn't watched the conference or after the court date, he came out and he actually spoke. He said a few things. He basically said that the current press is not running things well and things are going bad. But he also seemed to be downtrodden. Did anybody else notice that? Our former press really seemed kind of down today. Mind you, like everything that's happening right now, they're taking the money. They're taking away different social media apps. By the way, Meta, because of this whole TikTok thing, I keep seeing these things basically saying that Meta is not going to do anything political this time around because they're afraid that they may get banned too because of the political stuff. So all of a sudden you're not going to have Meta, one of the only other places where you would have a lot of pro ex-pres putting their thoughts out, whatever else. A lot of people are going to be taken off. You don't have that kind of advertising being done. T-Man paid people for T-Man paid a lot of advertising on Facebook. They're not going to allow either side. Now they can do it old-fashioned way. Whoever has the most money will be able to do the most advertising and get the most, people dropping the ballot in the box. They just stripped, and don't know if anything is going to change, but they're going to strip $400 million from the prez or the former prez. It's kind of crazy. It's like all of this, and they're trying to make it so he's got criminal cases. He's collusion. He's this. He's that. I would say even if you are not a fan and you hate the guy, that you would be able to see that he is literally attacked 24/7. They're trying to go over after every facet. I've talked to people that literally admitted they said they hate him and they don't care. They actually think that they're doing the right thing because, and they admitted they're like, no, they're totally doing this on purpose. Oh yeah, every little thing is being done on purpose because it's justice. He cannot be in charge. They're doing what we want them to do. Anything possible to keep this guy out of office again because he is, Adolf reincarnated or whatever. But it is pretty freaking crazy. And he made comments about the immunity as far as it, if a president doesn't have immunity from his actions as president, what do you have? Like presidency, you wouldn't be able to be a president and not have immunity. I actually agree with that. Like I was talking about this week, Dex, you know how all these presidents sign things away where innocent people get taken out for knowing too much. How would you, what if something like this goes through? Could they then put a president in prison for something they signed off on taking out an innocent person, or, you know what I mean?
Or or taking out a person in question, whether somebody else may define him as innocent, but the government or the leadership at that time defined him as not, right? Like Soleimani, or whether it be foreign or anywhere else. So they make decisions. They have to be able to make decisions in their role. And look, ultimately, this decision that may or may not come out of the Supreme Court will potentially have a massive effect on the powers of the president. One of the likely outcomes is this goes away in the sense that they just go, we can't figure it out, and send it back down to a lower court and then wait till it comes back up again. I doubt, that won't solve the problem. But if they come out and actually define it And, if they give it blanket, they got issues there too. But if they come out and define it, they're literally going to be defining the powers of the president. And it may even have effects on past presidents. Obviously, there's one in particular that's being dealt with at the moment. But what does it bring up for any of the other ones and anything that they've ever done? And would all of a sudden they be open to prosecution for something? Maybe. Right? This is huge. And again, we're right now, all they're saying is it looks like they're divided. Because and they've asked tons of questions, and the questions are, they range from like, what would you do about a former president pardoning another president like they did with Nixon in the past, and what would you do with JFK had the Central Intelligence Agency carry out covert operations against Fidel Castro? If that was illegal, would he have been prosecuted, and should he have been? So lots
what about
of
Obama?
interesting questions. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that have happened to current living former presidents that could easily be brought up in this scenario.
Bush.
So,
Heck, Bush. Clinton. Heck, Clinton. They all signed off on stuff that I'm sure that on the government's end they know about. So it's pretty insane. Before we move on, make sure to go check out Imagery. This is our recommendation for a solar generator. If you have a gas-powered generator, I would say that this is still it's absolutely an investment you should try to make next, because solar generators, obviously, you don't have to depend on gas. You don't have to worry about gas stations during a disaster. This one in particular is modular and it's expandable. It can actually be expanded up to 96 batteries. It can be charged from the wall, or more importantly, charged from the sun. You have some solar panels plugged into it. If you want more than one solar panel, you daisy chain it just like Christmas lights. Again, this one is modular, so you can actually add a brick just like Lego and add in UPS, uninterrupted power supply. If you want to add in a supercharger, which allows it to have 12 panels instead of 4, you can do that. That's what's so cool about it. You get all of the stuff you want, and all of the stuff that you don't need, you don't have to get. It's very, very cool. Just the base unit itself, though, is probably good enough for most people, and then you can choose how many batteries you need. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Not only will you save, but you'll help us at the same time. But this literally has gotten us through power outages. I have the tactical. I don't need the heated batteries, but if I ever do, I'm thankful that it's there. Again, you can be in extreme cold temperatures and it will still work. That is one of the weaknesses of lithium. This actually takes care of that too. It's got 1,500-pound latch system. It, of course, has got a steel reinforced frame. And, of course, it is silent. Nobody is going to know that you have power. You can run this in your house without worrying about fumes or anything else. And you can take it with you. You can power your power tools. You can use it at work. I've used it. The majority of me using this has not actually been during a power outage. It's been me taking it where I don't have or can't get an extension cord. I do a lot of construction work on the side. It's been extremely helpful for that. Charging all of my drill batteries and all my power tool batteries. It's been awesome. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, code Marfoogle. All right, and then, of course, Secret Service officer who fought colleagues will assign to Kamala Harris. Now, again, we did do a video over on news, but this is really spooky. So if you did not know about this, a Secret Service agent that was assigned to Kamala ended up getting in a fight. Listen to this. According to Real Clear Politics, Herzig arrived at Joint Base Andrews Monday morning and began deleting apps off of a male agent's personal cell phone before becoming more irate. Now, also, people aren't barely talking about the fact that maybe they're in a relationship, right? Maybe she found out he was cheating. That's also an option, too. But the fact that she was deleting apps, this is a day after this whole TikTok thing goes through. This is somebody that's right under the president. And I brought up the fact that Neurostrike is something that not only China is working on, that it's no longer theoretical, China has. And she deletes some apps and then says, you're all going to burn in hell. And you all need what was the quote? You all needed to listen to God. So they're saying that she's cuckoo, yet she was a corporal in the police, and she worked herself up all the way up to Secret Service for the VP. Most of these people aren't super unprofessional. They're not uncouth. They're at work at 5:59 p.m. Or a.m. You know, they leave at 5:59 p.m. It's like they're professional. They're robots. They're there for the job they do. Secret Service only picks the best. And of course, everybody's saying, "Oh, she was a inclusion hire or whatever." But that was so easy, and everybody has latched onto it. As far as the tweets that are out there, we showed you over on our other video. It's like everybody's just latching onto that. I think it's spooky that she was deleting apps and then started throwing feminine pads and then started going nuts and says, "You're going to burn in hell and needed to listen to God." Where did that come from? She has no history of being a religious zealot or anything. She's got nothing else except for a lawsuit where she sued her previous job because she said that they were treating her less than they were treating other police because of she was a woman. Now, that got dismissed. She did not win, but I personally think, and I know everybody's going with the inclusion thing, I think it's weird. It's almost like if China had a neurostrike weapon outside, they get this woman, they have her do that. The only people that would really get that would be CIA or NSA or somebody who knew about the neurostrike, that knows about all this, and would say, you know, they would look at it and go, "Oh, she deleted the phone, you know, the apps off the phone. Did she delete TikTok? Like, did she only delete one app and it was TikTok? Was this a message from them to, oh, you're going to delete our app? Well, we can get right next to you with neurostrike and we can have one of your Secret Service agents do this." Like, was this a warning? I know that sounds cuckoo, but so is technology now. They have microwave and EMF weapons that can now control brains. If you don't believe me, go look up neurostrike. It's no longer theoretical. So again, this thing was just wild. Go check out our full view on this over at Marfoogle News. Dex, did you want to add to this too? And I know we just did that video, so I was going to point people out.
I said a lot over there. You want to hear what I had to say? Go watch that video. How about that? You should go watch it. It's worth watching, and share it. It's short, small, perfect, good size to share with your friends and family.
Absolutely. And by the way, Stephen Click says, "No problem, Dex. You guys are awesome. Have come a long way." Thank you, Stephen Click, and says, "Hey, I just got a shout out. LOL." Sweat and Ministries, thank you. B-Roll Beast. Terry Quinn says, "Our Christ is the one true God. He won our battles for us already, folks. Just let him prove it. Call upon his name, Jesus." Terry Quinn, thank you. God bless you. I appreciate that. Donald Massey and BNB, thank you guys. If you want to hear our other opinions about this woman, then make sure to go over to Marfoogle News. Make sure to click right here. The video is going to be right there, and if you're watching the replay, make sure to go check that video out. Otherwise, it will be a link in the description. You guys have a good night. If you're in the chat, you'll be ported right over to Jams, so don't go anywhere if you want to stick around for that, which, again, I don't recommend it. Have a good night, guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Thank you, Dex. Love you. Be safe.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Marf out. Let's make a fresh one. Tonight, we're going to be making it for Donald Matt.